Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Slow to blank, quick to blank. Well, if you're in the business world, you would probably know that as slow to hire, quick to fire. But that is not what we're talking about today, although that is incredibly true. I was recently asked about some of the bigger mistakes that I have made as a leader at Salt Strong, and that was certainly in the top 5. There have been times where I was very quick to hire and very slow to fire, which is the opposite of what you're supposed to do, meaning that you just hire someone because you need someone badly. You don't do enough due diligence. You don't interview them well enough. You don't check the references. You just hire because you're in dire straits and you need someone quick. And then even when you know they probably aren't a fit and you're probably holding them back from something they need to be doing and probably holding them back from God's plan for their life, you stick with them too long. It ends up being cancerous and it is not good. All that being said, this is not a business teaching here, a business sermon. This is about us and relationships. And if you have already put it together, the underlying words are be slow to anger and quick to forgive. So slow to anger, quick to forgive. That is going to be, like always, one of the things that I'm practicing this year. And I shared last week that I've been reading a lot of books, usually around the holidays. It's a good time for me to kind of unwind and, spent quite a bit of time at the farmhouse up there in Georgia. And just a great place to read books because there's no TVs there. There's no internet. It is just either outside in nature, fishing, playing tennis, kicking the soccer ball around with the kids, hiking, or you're inside reading, or even outside reading. It was so nice a couple of the days. It was perfect outside. And someone had passed along the book, The Anxious Generation. If you have kids or grandkids, you've got to read this book. I'll read the cover here for you. The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, how the great rewiring of childhood is causing an epidemic of mental illness. And just describing all of the different things that we are experiencing now because of this whole generation of kids, or now young adults, who grew up with a phone in their hand. For those of us who are 40 and above, we didn't grow up with a phone in our hand. We didn't have phones even in college. Maybe like towards your senior year, you might have had like a flip phone, but we didn't have smartphones with social media and all that stuff until we were an adult. And, what this book is proving scientifically is that these kids who have basically just grown up with smartphones, even some of them at 8, 9 years old. I mean, they've spent now the majority of their life, if they're in their 20s, the majority of their life, they've had a smartphone in their hand. It controlled a lot of things, including their temperament and their anger and their inability to forgive. But it goes way, way, way deeper than that. And just in terms of how people are triggered and what triggers them, and the depression and the anxiety that it's causing of missing out on everything because you're getting to see what everyone else is doing, at least the fun things that they're doing. It's really, really wild. And the overall theme, I'll just kind of share the theme that he's proving, or did really prove in the book, is that when I was growing up in particular, so I was born in 1978, our parents of that generation and all the generations really before, you let your kids go outside. It was almost like stay outside until you hear me screaming that dinner is ready. And parents didn't really worry so much. And there were still worries. There was abductions and there was drunk drivers and all the things that, could happen for a kid out there on their bike riding around town. But in general, parents didn't worry like parents today do, like helicopter parents. And so this new generation of parents is quite the opposite. We're very controlling and very fearful about, all the things that might happen, mostly because it's just in our faces all the time. In this book, he went to prove that the amount of just abductions, like meaning just a random stealing of a kid off the side of the street, is actually down compared to how it was when we were growing up. What has changed? There are still a lot of really bad things in underground, child trafficking that obviously has gone up, but that's not from just your kid on a bicycle. What's happening, ironically, is that these people are being targeted online, and so what we've done, we think we're saving our kids by not letting them outside where all the scary stuff is. And instead we say, hey, you sit inside and be safe, but I'm going to give you this device that you can go meet all kinds of strangers who are targeting you, and obviously go down a million different rabbit holes of really, really horrible things online. And just talking about some of these 9 and 10-year-old boys who hadn't even kissed a girl, but had seen everything you can possibly imagine that might go on in a bedroom. I'll just leave it at that. And these are I have a 9-year-old son. I'm just like, this is crazy that these 9-year-old boys are admitting they've never even kissed a girl, held a girl's hand, but yet they've on their parents' iPads and their own phones, in some cases for 9-year-old boys that didn't have the right restrictions or they knew how to get around it. They'd literally seen everything you could imagine at Pornhub or wherever it might be. And it's just disturbing. So the irony is we spend so much time as parents today trying to protect our kids from all the bad, scary stuff out there. And the book is proving that they need that. That's what makes us stronger. Even being on a playground and learning how to interact with others, and maybe even falling off and getting the air knocked out of you, maybe even breaking an arm, like all that stuff actually made us stronger and help us deal with people better. And now we do the opposite. We keep them inside on these phones. They don't learn how to have conversations. And we're struggling even with our oldest daughter, and there's a lot of reasons for it, but I mean, just even like looking people in the eyes and having good conversations, like it's like we're just having to pry it out of it. Obviously, we're working really, really hard on that, and I think we do a pretty good job. We're not helicopter parents and live on a big property. Like, you guys stay outside, come in later. I don't worry about them like I think a lot of other people do, but still, it is impactful. And still, none of our kids, I got a 14, 11, and 9, and none of them have a phone until this year. We finally got one that is on complete lockdown, really just from making calls and text. And I think my daughter was, I believe, the last one in the whole class to get one. And so at least she feels like she can interact and text people off hours, meaning not in school. So all that being said, this book really, really opened my eyes to the dangers that are out there, not outside in nature, but inside our houses and inside of these phones, these smart devices, just all the stuff that it's happening and how it's rewiring their brains, the things they should be doing with other people. They're all now experienced by themselves. That's why these kids don't want to get driver's licenses anymore. Because by the time they're 16, they're like, well, man, I can talk to my friends and feel like I'm FaceTime, and there's not that much excitement. Remember when you were 16, probably, if you're like me, like I remember if you had a 16th birthday that was like a Saturday or Sunday where you couldn't go get your license, it was like the worst weekend ever, that you had to wait until Monday, to actually get your driver's license. Like, it was a really big deal. You would stop everything to make sure you got your driver's license the day you turned 16, because it meant freedom. I mean, you could finally go out and interact with other people, not just the people on your street that you could ride your bike to. And now these kids don't care, because they're like, man, I've been interacting with people. I can text them anytime I want. Remember, we used to have landlines where, you might have certain rules on how often you could be on it, because only one person could be on the phone at a time in a family. And if your mom or dad were expecting calls or business stuff, you couldn't be on the phone. And so there was very, very little interaction. There's no FaceTime. There's no texting. And now these kids have all that and just don't feel like they need to go be around other people. And all this is causing a massive, massive rewiring. But all that being said, that is not the point of the podcast. I just share it because it really was one of the most just eye-opening books for parents and grandparents as well that I've read. Highly recommend it. And I think it's going to take a village to kind of reverse some of the really horrible things that have already happened. So anyhow, the Anxious Generation is the book. But one of the chapters in there, and the guy who wrote it, it doesn't even sound like he's a Christian, not against Christians, but he's like, one of the things that he has noticed is because of the attachment to the phone, it is also resulted in lack of people going to church and lack of people doing life together, and how important that is, even just having some sort of spirituality and believing in something and in the power of prayer. Kind of tough to ignore that, even if you're an atheist. I mean, there's countless miracles that have been documented from prayer. And so even if you don't believe in God or Jesus, it's tough to say that having some sort of spirituality and believing in something and the power of prayer and doing life with others and having other people around you during times of hardships is not a good thing. It's really tough to argue that. And he does argue that's very, very important to our well-being, to our growth, et cetera. And also what he has documented in this book that social media has done is it has made us way too quick to anger, meaning the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. Remember, it's supposed to be slow to anger, quick to forgive, that we are way too quick to anger and way too slow to forgive. And also, in general, kind of hypocrites on that, right? Who kind of judge others harshly. I shared in the recent podcast that I was reading a different book. And as soon as the person told me that they were essentially not a conservative Christian, like I already started dismissing a lot of the stuff they were saying. Like I immediately almost disliked the person, even though the book was phenomenal. Like it was a really, really good book. And shame on me, right? I was essentially being a hypocrite. That in the irony is, like, had he told me and lied and said, "Oh yeah, I'm a Christian conservative," I would, "Oh, I really like this guy. It's even better." And shame on us for judging people like that quickly. I've never met this person who wrote the book. I love the book. To the point I went on a podcast and talked about it. And I'm not talking about the Anxious Generation. I'm talking about the one in the one episode ago. And yet, because he told me what he believed that went against what I believe, all of a sudden, I don't like this person. And I'm almost getting like angry about it. Like, whoa, how can this person be so dumb and so blind? And I take a step back and like, you know what? Hey, that's not my decision. And this person has some very valid points. It was an amazing, well-documented book that I thoroughly enjoyed and already recommended it. So I do think that we are way too hypocritical, that we're way too quick to get, angry or against someone, and kind of automatically justify our own behavior because so many other people are doing it. And I really do think that social media has absolutely skyrocketed this. It is just like pouring gasoline on this fire because my buddy Josh and I were talking about how at different points in our life, we were around people that just cursed like crazy. And he had a job where kind of in essentially in construction, and everyone just cussed. And, he'd come home and all the other people around him were like, "Well, man, you've changed. Like you're cursing like crazy." And he's like, "No, I'm not. And what the F are you talking about?" And didn't even realize, what he was doing. And that was the same to me. I think you're around something for so long, and you, just like we talked about, you become the closest of the kind of the average of the five closest people you hang around from all aspects, from how much money you saved to what you believed, how you cursed, how you treat people, et cetera. And he slowly kind of morphed in to these people. And I did the same thing. Not good. So anyhow, I do believe social media has just completely got this out of control, where we all just believe it's okay to bash someone the second we don't like it, or even if we see an image of something, where all of a sudden now new pet detective where we're like, oh, this is what happened. And this is, and then, shame on you, or even worse, start cursing like a lot of people do on social media, all because of you disagree with their point. And people get so angry. I've got a friend, not a really close friend, but someone I used to be close with. I live out in California, and I've now since just kind of dismissed it, and I think because I don't interact with it, I don't see it anymore. But for the longest time, and I'm talking months, every day, multiple posts a day about how much she didn't like certain things going on with the current administration. And it was basically like Trump and everything going on was just living rent free in her head. And she was so angry. I'm talking so many curse words. And you could almost just feel the anger in her post. And regardless if you believe her or not, or meaning if you believe her thoughts on everything, it doesn't even matter. It's the fact that someone that she's never met, a politician, is living that rent free in her head and getting her that angry. She's got to post 2 to 3 times a day for months at a time. You can't grow like that. You can't have a relationship with God. You can't have really any real relationships unless you find someone who's just as angry as you are about just life and how everything's unfair and bad decisions are being made that honestly probably haven't impacted her at all. She's a well-to-do person, and I'm willing to bet, if anything, she's probably done well in the stock market and some things that have changed. And yet it was just like she was close to just breaking, really, really bothersome. And she's not alone. There's, countless people like that who are just so quick to anger. And the Bible, let's just take this back to the Bible. Numerous places, I know in James, it's always talking about, self-control and not, quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. I'll read here. Be quick to hear, meaning be a good listener, slow to speak. Be a good listener again. Literally says, be quick to hear, be a good listener, slow to speak, meaning keep listening, and then slow to anger, as anger doesn't bring about God's righteousness. And of course, Jesus has the saying there, why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but don't notice the log in your own eye? Talking about the same thing about not being a hypocrite. We're so quick to get angry and throw stones at someone because they have a speck in their eye, but we don't notice the huge log, meaning the own things that we're doing ourselves in our own eye. And I believe social media has been training us to kind of do the opposite of what we should be doing, meaning slow to anger and very quick to forgive. It kind of encourages us to make rapid, like instant public judgments for little concern about the person that posted, or maybe the person who's getting gaslit or didn't ask to have their picture there. No concern for humanity, really. All right. And who are criticizing complete strangers who we've never met, getting in fights. And many times, neither party has the full knowledge of like the context and maybe what it does to someone, right? Maybe you do have thick skin and it doesn't bother you and doesn't live rent free in your head. I'm betting it doesn't, because most people still deep down don't just let go of things like that. But there's some people that, like this book talks about, that end up committing suicide. And that's why suicide rates are up among teens. You just never know who you're talking to. And someone gets beat down and just criticized over and over again on even on social media. It's devastating what it can do, especially to young minds and younger people who just haven't even matured and developed yet. Really, really wild. But either way, my point of this is that all of the social media and all the things just around us and the news, it is just making us so quick, like rapidly quick, to judge and to criticize and to throw stones. And I don't think it's good. And so if you're wondering where I'm going with some of this, like one thing that I did this year, and we're only 20 something days in, we haven't even finished the full month yet, but inside of your phone, in the settings for accessibility, or no, I guess it's the notifications in the screen time in that area. There's a thing called downtime. So yeah, I'm looking here. It's in my. I have to go get in there because I can't access my phone, but I have this downtime where it locks almost all my apps except for like text messages and phone, because I still use that for work, and my email. But every single app, like all 62 of them, whatever I have, they're on complete lockdown from 9 a.m. until 5. The times that I'm really busy working, times I shouldn't be on it anyways, and it has been game changing. A lot of us think, oh, we don't get it on that often, like meaning we don't go access the news or anything. And obviously I'm not watching TV during those hours either. And I don't know, just for my overall well-being and my overall happiness and fulfillment, it has been really, really good. I didn't realize how much I spent. And obviously your phone tracks all that for you on what apps you're on. And I already kind of limited like Facebook and Instagram. That's where I get my news, because I literally don't watch the news. I don't watch Fox Scene. I don't watch any of them. I just honestly don't care. And some people look at me like, how can you not care? I'm like, it hasn't changed my life one iota. It in a negative way, it's only helped me out. Like I'm sure if it's important, I'll eventually find out about it. It's gotten rid of any sort of animosity, any sort of fear, anxiety about things happening. Man, I focused on my family and my relationships and my business and my relationship with God. And there's nothing in the news that is really going to change that. And like I said, if it's really important, like if we went to war, I'm sure I'll find out about it pretty quickly from my wife or a friend or someone. I don't know. Anyhow, I digress on that, but I would challenge you to do it and just watch what happens. I had a friend recently that lost their phone fishing, and he's like, man, at first I was like freaked out because I could barely even get home that day, because we're so reliant on maps, and he was somewhat far away from home where he was fishing. And then he realized, like, man, after going a couple days without the phone, it was like liberating. It's like I got more stuff done around the house, and I wasn't as distracted. I felt like free. And I completely agree. I've had a couple times where my phone did fall in the water. I was able to retrieve it, but it croaked. And it really was. It was like, man, this is, at first you kind of freaked out because you're so used to having it in your hand or your pocket, or if you're a woman, a purse. And it is really, really, really nice. And so by doing this, I'm able just to shut it down and know, you know what? I'm not going to have anything that's going to distract me or bother me from 9 to 5. And it has been fantastic in terms of, if you are anxious, I would certainly try it. If you are fearful or quick to anger, you must try it. But in general, even if you feel like you're very content and happy and fulfilled, I would still try it. It has been really, really, really impactful here for the first year. So I'm going to try to do it all year long and kind of report back on kind of what it's done for me. So once again, that is going into your phone and to the settings and the thing called downtime, which basically just limits all your usage, and you can pick and choose. I just picked everything with the exception of a couple of apps, and I think automatically they let you have phone and text, because that's what old school flip phones could do. So anyhow, let's get back to the forgive part, because we talked a little bit or a lot of it here about just anger and what social media has kind of helped propel into really just, I would say, even unsafe levels of us just getting so quick to anger. But, on the flip side of it, we also need to forgive. And I was listening to a friend recently, and I won't say names, but went through divorce. It's been 4 years, and it was not pretty. And that's not fun. You don't wish that on anyone. But part of the biggest issue that I see is that neither party has been able to forgive some things that happened in the past. And I understand that's not easy. And I am not throwing stones or talking about my neighbor's eye with the speck, because I know it's not easy. All that being said, I think it is inevitable that neither of these two people are really going to find the peace that they're desiring. Because that's what I was hearing her say. Like, I just want this to be over. I feel like I'm in purgatory. It just won't stop. Like, well, have you tried to, I can't forgive. I just can't. I was like, okay. So when I hear that, and it's been 4 years, at some point we have to forgive, even if it's the hardest thing you've ever done. And even if maybe you don't even truly mean it 100%, and I'm being a little sarcastic, but at least just to take a baby step and try to somewhat forgive. It is amazing what that does to us psychologically, to our bodies, to our brains. It is so powerful to start forgiving, even if it's really tough. And even if you know 100% that you were in the right, they were in the wrong, they're the ones that should be forgiving you. There is just something powerful. And I think we have, because of all the social media and because of our ability to get so quick to anger, and everyone else is angry, and you never see people say I'm sorry or forgive people on social media, right? We only, for the most part, see people bickering and arguing, especially in these days. You don't see and get to learn from people, especially if you're young. You're not seeing many adults apologize and forgive. So no wonder we have a society that has a lot of problems forgiving people. But I really believe that we must just develop the ability and maintain it, like have the capacity to forgive. Because here's the deal. If you can't forgive, you can't love. And that's what I'm hearing, not just this couple, but other friends who've been through divorce. Like, they never find that next person. They might bounce around and have a couple little flings, but none of them have found the next person until they finally forgave. So what that tells me is that if you can't forgive, like if you don't have the power to forgive, you also don't have the power to love. And that, I mean, that's huge, right? I mean, that no wonder so many people are unhappy out there, because love is such an important part. I mean, it's the most important part of our life. That's what Jesus was kind of his marching orders, to love others, right? And if you can't forgive, if you don't have the power to forgive, you don't have the power to love. I think that's so important. I don't think people realize that's what's happening. And I've been there. I've shared before in podcasts where there's a couple people that I had trouble forgiving for the longest time. And looking back, those years, I wasn't very loving. I was angry. My relationship suffered. It was finally my wife's like, you need to get over this. Like, you're just not yourself. And as soon as I actually forgave the person, and it wasn't her, by the way, it was someone else that did something really, really bad on the business. I just essentially stole from me. And I was just so mad about it for the longest time. And when I finally forgave the person, even though I didn't do anything wrong, I didn't steal, it was this person, it was just like, oh man, I can get back to being myself again. I can have relationships and I can love my wife and my daughter. It really was eye-opening. And you don't realize how bad it is when you're in that funk, just like my buddy and I didn't realize how much we were cussing, as you're just around it all the time. And you just think that's the new normal. Man, it is liberating. So a couple things, I'll kind of sum this up. One, stay off social media as much as you can. Be really, really slow to anger and then quick to forgive. I really do believe if you don't have the power to forgive, then you don't have the power to love. So if you want to have more love and more loving relationships and better relationships, start working on your power to forgive and not being so quick to anger. And then try the phone thing out. That's another, just to me, a life hack, especially if you're spending hours, a day or even many hours a week. Your phone will tell you how long you're spending on different apps and social media. It is really, really nice just to have a nice time. Whatever it is, start small. I went from 9 to 5 because there's still some time in the morning. Once I have coffee on there, I'll just check Facebook and CNBC. I'll look at that for just some of the stock stuff that's happened. And then as soon as 9 o'clock, boom, I can't see any of them. They're shut down there, locked down. And it has really, really been peaceful and liberating. It just gives me time to focus on what's really important, which is not apps on my phone, which is the whole point of this. So, and then finally, if you're mom, dad, grandparent, soon to be parent, or even someone in their 20s that's just struggling with anxiety and all that, read The Anxious Generation. I mean, there's it's essentially a manuscript on what's happened, like where we are today, and how we're going to fix this if we are going to fix it at all. Really, really powerful. Otherwise, I will talk to you in the next episode. Hope you like this. It was a little bit different, but I just felt called to share it after reading this book and really just thinking through some just recent things that have happened with some of my own friends and acquaintances that just tied in with this about just being very, very quick to anger and slow to forgive. And we need to flip that upside down and do the opposite. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Like always, if you have any thoughts, prayer requests, anything that you want to share, hit me up. I love hearing from all of you. Joe@saltstrong.com, Joe@saltstrong.com.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul.